the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. She is the advisor to high achievers rethinking success, identity, and what comes next. Of course, an author, speaker, and career strategies for a high achievers. Other than Miss Kate Kayaian. Welcome.
Thank you,
Welcome,
Daniel.
welcome.
Great to be
Yes.
here.
Yes, welcome back to one of my podcasts. And people, Miss Kate is also the author of the book Beyond Potential. So can you please introduce more about yourself so that I met Miss Kate?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Kate Kayaian. I am coming to you from Bermuda, and I am a former professional cellist. And currently, I am a coach to high performers and an author and a keynote speaker, a podcaster myself, and just living the dream.
Yes, I love that, Miss Kate. Say hi to Bermuda. And here on Abstract Essay, we salute you, we celebrate you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. And today, let's talk about being advisor to high achievers, rethinking success, identity, and what comes next. You
Yeah.
perform as a soloist in the Jordan Hall of European concert halls. You train at NEC. You had a fellowship with the New World Symphony under Michael Tilson Thomas. By any measure, you had made it. What did
Mhm.
success look like from the outside, and what did it feel like on the inside when no one is watching?
Yeah, from the outside, it looked great. And it was the dream. I was living the dream that I had when I was a little girl and was taking cello lessons and practicing. And I wanted to play with big orchestras and I wanted to play on stages of the big concert halls. And I wanted to work with all of these famous musicians and I wanted to travel the world. And down to wearing fancy dresses and going to receptions afterwards. And that's really what it was like. It was great. It's a lot of hard work being a professional musician. It's a lot of evenings and your weekends are taken up. You have to miss a lot of family events, a lot of friends' weddings. And so there are definitely sacrifices, but it's a wonderful life. You get to travel the world with your friends and make music. It's incredible. Um, Eventually, it started to feel like, okay, am I just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again, weekend after weekend, for the rest of my life? Um, we don't really, in the classical music world, we don't really set our sights on a retirement age, right? Like you'll see conductors in their 90s up on the podium. You see soloists might not be performing anymore, but they're still teaching and giving master classes. They're still in it. And generally you think like, okay, well, you're gonna do this until the end of your days. And at some point in my late 30s, early 40s, that didn't seem quite as appealing to me. But there was no evidence of anybody else having just quit. That's not something that was ever done. If you reach that point, you're so lucky. You should be so grateful um, that you wouldn't really consider stopping or retiring or leaving. And so people didn't understand it when I talked to them about what I wanted to do. And it was just a foreign thing, right? So I wrote the book to help other people who might be feeling the same way. Because after I did it, after I left and started coaching and speaking and doing these other things, after I wrote the book, people kept coming up to me saying, "Oh my gosh, me too." And I didn't know we were allowed to do this. Thank you for showing us that we were allowed to do this. It seems like such a silly thing, right? Um, that we feel like we need permission to do something as huge as that. But yeah, so that's why I wrote the book. I think we all write the book that we needed to read at some point that didn't exist. So started dedicating my life to helping other people create their own projects, right? I was so excited by the projects that I started after I stopped performing, and I felt that they were a huge contribution and really helpful to other people. And so, yeah, it's just been a joy.
It's been a joy, definitely. Yeah. During lockdown, you used to pause to rethink everything. Was the specific question you asked yourself that crack open possibility of leaving the career you had dedicated your life to?
Yeah. So as I said, I had been thinking about this. I had been questioning it before, and people around me were telling me, no, you can't quit. You can't stop. You're not allowed to. We don't do that in this industry. And when the pandemic hit, when lockdown hit, and all of my concerts for the foreseeable future were canceled, like everybody else's, I took that opportunity to take a bit of a sabbatical. So I suppose the main question that I was asking myself was, if I stop doing this, will I regret it? Will I miss it? And so the pandemic, the one thing that it did for me was it took away the question of regret, because it wasn't a decision that I was making to stop playing. That was just fact. There were no performances. So the real question became, after 6 months, am I going to be desperate to get back on stage to perform? Or am I going to say, you know what? This has been pretty nice. I could get used to this. And
Mhm.
after 6 months, I decided I was going to give myself another 6 months, because at that point, I didn't miss it. I was already starting to do other things that I really enjoyed, but of course, they were only 4 or 5 months old at that point. And so I decided to give myself another 6 months to see, A, can these other things, will they continue to sustain my interest? Will I love them as I develop them? Will they be interesting to other people? And at the end of another 6 months, after a full year of not performing, will I miss it? And I even accepted a couple of concerts for after that point, and they were with people that I liked to perform with. It was music that I loved. It was music that I know really well. And so I figured, even if I have decided that I don't want to perform anymore, even if I decided that, listen, this is great, this was the perfect thing, and I'm done, I'm ready to be done, I knew that those particular performances would still be fun and joyful, and they wouldn't be too much work for me to do. Um, and so I kept them on the books, just in case, right? Little security blanket. And that's exactly what happened. We got to that point a year later, and I was like, okay, like, I'll practice for these concerts, and it'll be fine. It'll be fun. It's great music with people I enjoy, and then I can be done. Then
Mm.
no more after that.
Well, Miss Kate, you went from performing Grammy winning repertoire to leading a coaching practice and serving as a president of Bermuda Philharmonic. Or
That's right.
Philharmonic, sorry. What skills did classical music train you in your that turned out to be perfect entrepreneurship, and what did you have it learned from scratch?
Yeah, that's a great question. In that period where I was trying to figure out what else I wanted to do, this is in fact pre-COVID, pre-lockdown, I just followed my instincts of things that interested me. And I remember Marie Forleo, she started her B School, this, online digital course that you could take that was teaching you um, marketing and copywriting and little bits and bobs. It was like, a little mini business school packaged up that you could take as a digital course. And I was fascinated. These are not things that we were ever taught in music school. And so I took that course. And it was the combination of the things that I knew about communicating with other human beings as a cellist, the things that I had learned as a musician of how to communicate with other people who maybe you don't share a language, right? We would travel all over the world, and often not everybody in the room spoke the same language, and we'd have to put a concert together. So that ability to communicate with people in a deeper level, and with the addition of these new business tools and marketing and copywriting, I felt like those two things really helped me in terms of my role as the music director and president of the board of the Bermuda Philharmonic. It really falls into the work that I do everywhere else. For a while, because it was just a community volunteer thing that I, wanted to contribute. And it really felt like two different things, right? I had my coaching work, my writing, my podcasting, the work that I was doing as a coach to high achievers. And then I had the Philharmonic. And I realized at one point that actually the work that I do with the Philharmonic is the exact same thing. In my coaching work, I tend to work with individuals who have a dream project or something that they've always wanted to do, and they have been struggling to launch it off the ground and to get it across the finish line, whatever it is. And I can help them do that. I help them become the best versions of themselves. And that's exactly what I do with the Philharmonic, both in terms of an organization within a community. How important, how wonderful, how expansive can this organization be? How much of an impact can it make on the community around them? And the players, how much better can they become playing this repertoire, playing these concerts? And so it's just been a dream to see all of these different sides of my life come together to serve the community around me, whether that is my one-on-one clients or the readers of my book or the community here in Bermuda.
Well said, Miss Kate. And you say many high achievers secretly or secretly feel trapped by the very cheers they worked hardest to build. Why does happen, and why is it hard to admit when you are inside it?
Well, I think that we hold ourselves hostage sometimes to the wishes of our younger selves, right? I mean, if you heard about somebody who had become a lawyer because their parents forced them to go into law, their parents really wanted them to be a lawyer, and so they sacrificed everything else. They put their dreams on hold, and they went to law school and became a lawyer. You'd feel really bad for that person. You'd say, like, no, you should go live your life. You should go do the things that you want to do. But often what happens is, what I was feeling of that younger version of myself wanted nothing more than to spend her Saturday nights on stage playing the cello. And eventually I evolved into something else, into a different version of myself. And I had different wishes and different dreams and different priorities. So it doesn't make any more sense for me to just continue following that little younger version's dream for me. I had to allow myself to say, like, that was great and it's been wonderful. It was a great dream. You did a great job. And now the current version of me has this other dream. I want to go pursue these interests and do these things. So I think that we can get trapped in this idea of, well, I always wanted to do it. And does that mean that I'm a liar? Does that mean that I was wrong? Does that mean that am I going to look like a fool for changing my mind? And the answer, of course, is no. You should do whatever you want. It's your life. And you are not obligated to live your life for anyone else. And that includes younger versions of yourself. You should do what you want to do today.
Mm, certainly. Do it what you want to do in life, especially if you're happy. Ambitious professionals often keep chasing goals long after those goals stop making them happy. What is a psychological mechanism behind that, and how does someone recognize they are in the pattern before they crash?
Yeah. I think that we have an opportunity throughout our lives to take a look at the stories that we've been telling ourselves about what we are supposed to do, what we should be doing, um, why we're doing what we're doing, why we're doing it, the way we're doing it. Our life is full of stories. Every behavior we have is based on a story. You cross the street at a green light because you tell yourself the story that society has these laws and it's important to follow them, right? That's great. That works for a lot of people, right? Keeps you from getting hit by a car. We also have stories that you you have to decide your career by a certain age, or that you can go into certain industries but not others. You could have a certain job. You could be, it used to be for women that you could be a teacher, you could be a nurse, you couldn't be a doctor or professor. That story has changed because enough people stopped and said, hang on, why? Why is that the case? And so those people throughout history who have stopped to reassess those stories and question them have made history for us. And we can do that for ourselves. We can say, okay, let me take a look at these stories that have been holding me to where I am, and maybe I could rewrite them. I can rewrite the story in a way that serves me better and allows me to do the things that I want to do.
Hey, thank you, Miss Kate. Thank you for that. You talk about identity shift in midlife. Who were you, our 25-year-old Celeste? Who are you in a coach and arts leader? And what did you have to grieve in between?
Mm, a lot. And I think that grief period is one that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. When I decided that I was going to hang up my hat as a cellist, I had to allow myself to grieve a certain lifestyle that was very glamorous, an identity that I had had since I was 5 years old. And we're talking over 40 years of I was Kate, the cellist. I
Mm.
was introduced by my friends as Kate, the cellist. Every time I met somebody new, I was introduced as this is my friend Kate. This is my wife Kate. This is my daughter Kate. This is my sister Kate. She's a cellist. And I didn't really know how to introduce myself. And I didn't really at first know what to say to other people. My husband even, he said, I don't know how to introduce you now. And I said, just introduce me as Kate. Let's let that be enough. And I had to allow that to be enough for myself. I had to grieve little things like I had a closet full of gorgeous concert gowns that I mean, even if I still went to, a couple of balls a year, I still had too many dresses. So, donating those, getting rid of those was sad for me. I loved those dresses. I had so many memories, but I really didn't need an entire closet full of them. Um, I I had to grieve the credibility that that gave me, right? Because I had been a cellist for so long and I had a very long resume full of accolades and wins and awards that proved to the external world that I was good at that thing. And as an author who hadn't even published her first book yet, as a coach who at that point, in the beginning had maybe, a handful of clients that I had worked with successfully. Um, I didn't have that external proof. I didn't have the long CV of wins behind me. And it felt really disorientating at first. And I just had to trust myself and trust the people around me that they could be interested in the work that I do. They could be interested in me as a person, even if this person hadn't won big internationally recognized awards yet. and and yeah, just trust the process.
Indeed, trust the process and be patient.
Yeah.
People, don't be in a hurry because there's a process. You build a three phases or phrase framework from career evolution. Walk us through that each one. What does reassessing actually look like on Tuesday morning? And how does someone redefine without burning bridges, and what tells you you're ready to reignite?
Yeah. So yeah, this is the three-part process that I work through with my clients and is outlined in the book. And I think that the first part, reassessing, is the one that most people miss. I think a lot of people wake up on a Tuesday morning and they say, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna do this thing. Um, you know, I'm gonna be a farmer. I'm gonna grow all my own vegetables. And they don't stop to ask themselves, why didn't they do that before? And maybe they thought like, oh, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Again, with the stories, right? So the first part is to really sit down, see where you are, ask yourself what got you there, and what's holding you there, and what's keeping you from moving forward. What are those stories that are keeping you from moving forward, and rewriting those stories? There's a whole process. I have exercises, and deep questions that will help get you unstuck in that section. So that's the reassessing. Now, once you realize, oh, I have all of these possibilities now, right? Like if those
Mhm.
stories aren't true and I can rewrite my own stories, look at all of this possibility in front of me. Look at all of these opportunities. The world is my oyster. So then you have the opportunity to redefine who you want to be, right? I'm someone who really can figure out how to grow these vegetables and to care for livestock and run a farm, whatever it is for you, right? And so you can redefine yourself, and that process has to do with that. Part of it is that grieving process of saying goodbye to who you were, welcoming who are becoming, getting to know yourself. I think as adults, we just kind of start going through life and don't think about things. So I had an exercise that I do, a room full of adults, a room full of very successful adults, and I ask them what their favorite flavor of ice cream is. And you would be surprised how few people can name that.
Mhm.
They'll say, "Oh, I don't know, I like chocolate and I like pistachio." And I said, "No, no, no, what's your favorite?" Oh, and they can always tell me what their favorite ice cream flavor was when they were a kid. And they have no idea whether they still like it or not. It's fascinating. Same thing with the favorite color. What's your favorite color? Oh, I don't know. I tend to wear black all the time. Okay, was black your favorite color? No, not really. They can tell me, oh, when I was a little kid, I loved yellow. Oh, do you still like yellow? Oh, I'm not sure. I don't have anything that's yellow, right? And so
Mhm.
really exploring these little details, the big things, of course, but also these smaller details, all help to put a fresh picture together of yourself. What kind of movies do you like, right? As a professional cellist, I knew what kind of movies I was supposed to like, right? Intellectual French films, German films, anything that was in a foreign language or a classic film was what I was supposed to like. But, maybe secretly I kind of loved a rom-com here, once in a while. It's an opportunity for you to sort of, you know, stake your flag and say, this is who I am. This is what I care about. These are the things that I like. And then reignite. I think this is where a lot of people get stuck. So the third section of the book is, it's some productivity hacks. It's some ideas for building timelines and doing, what kind of research needs to go into it, how to move forward with big leaps or small steps, both of which will get you the results that you want, and how to avoid pitfalls like rocking chair tasks, right? Rocking chair tasks
Mhm.
are those things that they make you feel like you're working all day, but you're not actually making progress. You're not making forward motion. You're just going back and forth, right? So that looks like spending weeks working on a logo for your new business rather than selling a product or getting some clients. It looks like watching YouTube videos, figuring out how to do something without ever actually trying to do it yourself in the process. So, all of those things that will help you get started, that will help you cross the finish line, and it teaches you how to celebrate along the way.
Celebrate definitely. So to wrap up our discussion for today, Miss Kate, your book is titled Beyond Potential. What does the phrase actually mean, and why is reaching your potential sometimes a trap rather than a goal?
Yeah, well, I think the word potential is pretty loaded, and I think that the title that I gave the book on purpose is it can be interpreted multiple ways, right? So I think for me, beyond potential meant to go beyond the definition of potential that other people put on me. For others, it could be, listen, I've reached my potential and I want to keep going. So let's see how far I can go. For others, it means like this is what I thought my potential was. And now I can see it can be so much greater than I ever believed possible. And so, whatever draws you to the title and whatever draws you to the book is how it will serve you the best.
Definitely. Certainly. So, Miss Kate, can you please invite our listeners to support your book itself or anything you want to promote on Abstract Essay?
Yeah, well, you can grab the book on Amazon.com, of course, barnesandnoble.com. You can find it at bookshop.org and ask your local bookstore to get it. And you can find everything else, the podcast, coaching work with me, some freebies that I have all on my website, katekaian.com. That's the place to go. And come hang out with me on Instagram. I'm at Kayaian, and tell me that you found me on Abstract Essay.
Yes, people, let's connect with Miss Kate. And I have one more question before I will let you go, Miss Kate. If a listener is in their 40s or 50s, successfully by external measures, but secretly wondering, is this it? What is the single most important truth you want them to hear before this episode's end?
Well, the truth is that no, that's not it. It can be whatever you want to be your next step. So get the book, get a coach, get some support, and go after what you really want to be doing. You have so much time left. Go do it.
Just do it, people. So, Miss Kate, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
What can people see you soon? Well, Miss Kate.